originally from the streets of Brooklyn. He passed through the hometown of the late great trainer of champions, Customano.
Welcome to a new edition of the Neon Jazz interview series with Slovenian-born, New York City-based jazz saxophonist Jan Kus. We got into his new 2025 EP called Night Rides and his life in the music world. New York City's Playground is an eclectic musical unit founded by versatile multi-instrumentalists, Slovenian-born Jan and Puerto Rican-born Dan Martínez. The album invites the listener on a late-night journey, conjuring up the atmosphere of riding on an empty highway, lights passing by rhythmically, alone with your thoughts and memories, zoning out to the beat of the road and the groove of traffic and just dreaming away. Jan started his musical journey at 5 in his native country of Slovenia, studying clarinet and general music studies. He's always been drawn to various sounds of music from all ears and all parts of the world, and it all started with his father's record collection of creative music from the 60s, 70s, and 80s. It's quite a story. Enjoy this interview. Jan, it's wonderful to meet you. Where are you located?
New York City.
Okay, excellent. All right. Well, I'm in the middle of the country. I'm in Kansas City, Missouri. I'm looking forward to getting into Playground and your world of music, so thank you for taking a minute out.
Yes, of course. Thank you for having me.
You bet. So before we get into Playground and your life and music, I want to know this first and foremost. 5 years ago, this pandemic was descended on us, changed so much, especially with musicians. How did you make it through that era, and how has it influenced the way that you create and live today?
Okay, that's a good question. So actually, that pandemic had a lot to do with the creation of this band because Dan Martínez, who's unable to get online right now for the interview, who's the other founder of the band, he's Puerto Rican. And I'm from Slovenia originally. I'm Slovenian, but at this point I've been in New York for 15 years. And the pandemic was actually a big crossroads for me because I didn't know if I want to maybe return back to my homeland or to stay here or what to do. And I kind of braved 1 year here in pandemic New York. And during that year, I started composing a lot of these songs because they're very ambiental, I used to always take the city bike, which they had like a very discounted fare during the pandemic. And I would just drive around ride around from Queens to Brooklyn. And all this music was coming to me because there was this big city that was very empty now all of a sudden. And it was this urban atmosphere, but it was dark, it was the night, there wasn't a lot of people. And I kind of came up with ideas for a lot of these songs. That's why one of them is called a sketch, because it was just a sketch. And then after 1 year of pandemic New York, I said it's been too much, so I just went to visit Dan actually in Puerto Rico, which seemed like a good choice to make because I was the little few students that I had, they were online anyway, so it was like, let me just go somewhere where it's much better weather. And we actually developed a lot of those songs in Puerto Rico in 2021, so that was some connection there.
So what was kind of the overarching artistic vision for Playground, and how does it feel to have this album out?
Oh, it feels amazing to have this album out. It's a very sincere and very personal album, if I may say. The thing is, I'm a kid of the 90s, right? And I got into, I'm born in 1987, but I grew up in the 90s in Slovenia, and let's say around the 2000s was when I was a teenager. And one of the first musics that I really got into was mostly, well, of course, you grow up with what's around in the house. So there was some folkloric music, and then there was like Yugoslavian rock was a really big thing, which was very influenced by American rock, actually. We have some bands over there that were really inspired by Led Zeppelin and bands like that. And my parents would listen to that. And also some even older things, But my music and my generation's music was involving a lot of electronics. We listened to a lot of electronic music, and simultaneously I was getting into jazz, saxophone, just starting my first lessons and so on. But we did produce electronic music with my friends in high school, just because we liked it, and I was just new with the jazz knowledge, so I was showing them some chords and look, you can do this, you can do this. but it was much more on the electronic music side and the dance and kind of jazz house, something like that. I would sometimes record a solo or two on the saxophone, but mostly it was electronic music. And then, so that was when I was, I don't know, 15. And then I went into this whole jazz journey, and from John Coltrane and even Jimmy Heath, who I end up studying and playing with, and all the classic jazz, and Reggie Workman was one of my big mentors, whom I'm really eternally grateful to. And Wayne Shorter's music was a big inspiration, and all of this, and now it feels like it kind of came full circle, because during the pandemic I had so much time, and I was really trying to map out what I want to do with my career and how I want to, because it was a time of a lot of doubt, also the pandemic, I would like to say, for a lot of artists, and reflection. And I was trying to map out my career and to figure out what would be the distinction for me, what could make my music be very authentic, and what could make it stand out and not be, quote unquote, just another jazz project. And I came up with this idea that on one hand, I have my cultural background, which led to the creation of the group Slovenia-born Assembly, which Dan is also part of, Dan Martínez, who's not on the call today. That one fuses the Balkan and Caribbean folk music. And then on the other side, so let's say that's oriented towards the past maybe a little bit. And then on the other side, we have Playground, which is oriented towards the future, and it will feature my love for electronic music and modern sounds and all of that. So it really feels like a full circle having this record out. And actually, one of the tracks on the album, which is called Eyes Closed, I first wrote when I was maybe 15 or 16, back when we were producing those electronic music projects with my friends in high school.
So talk to me a little bit about what you're hoping the listener gets from this album.
Okay. Let's say we, because Dan is also a big part of it, we conceptualized this album as a very ambiental, very atmospheric album. The name Night Rides is not a coincidence. It's trying to recreate that feeling of, when you're in the car on a long highway and the lights are passing over you, and you're just there with your thoughts, and you can be in the moment, and you can drift away in your mind. I really wanted to make a record that would work, that would serve a purpose for people living everyday lives, definitely not just for musicians, let's say, but for people what kind of music you like to listen to relax, or what kind of music you like to listen to when you're in your car, or what kind of music you like to listen to when you want to start your day energetically, and so on. So it's really kind of trying to provide a soundtrack for people's lives, for everyday people's lives, so every people from all walks of life.
So take me back to the beginnings of your life, where you're from, how music became your life, and more specifically jazz.
Yeah, sure. That's actually a fun story. So I'm from Slovenia originally. None of my immediate family were musicians. My dad played the accordion for a little bit, but then he was more into sports. He was a basketball player, actually. However, like some grandparents turned out great grandparents. We found out later that one of them was a classical singer, an opera singer. One was a violinist. So music is very present in that part of the world, but it wasn't present in my immediate family. And then, but because it's so present, it's very common that you have to pick an instrument when you're about that you start this music, just general music preparation courses when you're about 5-6 years old, and you're doing like rhythm, clapping, and you're repeating melodies and so on. And then at one point almost everybody does that. And at one point they were like, which instrument would you like to play? And I honestly had no idea which instrument I would like to play. But I was staying at my grandma's that evening, the evening before we had to decide, and a documentary came on. And the documentary was about Benny Goodman. And I was like, I like this. This is really good. And looking back now in hindsight, I think what I really liked about it was the jazz element, not maybe necessarily the clarinet. Because then I signed up for clarinet classes, and I was interested for about 2-3 years, but the elementary school program is like 6 years in Slovenia. and I very much didn't like it the last 3 years. So I somehow finished, and then a friend of mine started playing saxophone, and I was like, this looks interesting. And it's kind of similar to the clarinet. Let me try. I wanted to sign up to the same teacher's classes, but I was late. And then because I was late, her class was full, and I couldn't do it. So then a friend of my mom's told her that there is a young guy, he was 23 at the time, who just moved back. He was studying abroad and he just moved back. And he's a jazz guy, and maybe he would be cool for me because he's young. I was about 12. That's talking about when I started playing saxophone. And then we started classes, and pretty soon we got to a point where he was like, wait, I feel like you're not really inspired. What's up, you know? I said, well, you know, I kind of like the saxophone, but I really don't know. The music I listen to is hip hop and electronic music. I don't know how this what you're showing me is a different thing. And he just started laughing. He's like, yeah, okay, sure. So the next week he brought me a bunch of records of like Guru Jazzmatazz, Miles Davis, the kind of the doo-wop period, and all these artists that I never heard before, and I started listening to it, and then I really liked that Miles Davis record, and then I went to the library and I typed in Miles Davis, and it gave me like 59 or all the albums. They had all of his albums. I think it's 52 albums that he has or something like that. And a friend of mine was with me who had nothing to do with music, and he very confidently pointed at like, you should take this one. I'm like, why? He's like, because I told you this is the one. He doesn't know at all. He's not into jazz music. And the album that he pointed at was Kind of Blue. So I took that one, and when I first heard Coltrane on that album, that was like a big turning point for me. And very quickly the arguments within our household went from you have to practice more to like you have to, you know, when I was still playing the clarinet, to when you really have to stop practicing now and do something else, you know. And yeah, and then also I had the very big privilege to study with Mr. Reggie Workman when I was just 15 years old, because Reggie used to be married to a Slovenian dance choreographer, and probably a lot of other things like an artistic creator. I don't want to say less than she's doing. Maja Milenovic Workman, and they organized these amazing workshops of dance and music in Slovenia, and they really marked the whole generation of let's say creative musicians in my country and in the region more broadly too, because people from other countries were coming in as well.
So what was the first live show that you saw, jazz or otherwise, that blew you away, that made you think, I want to do that one day?
The live one, I'm not sure, honestly. Well, it might have been something by Reggie, to be honest, you know, like that really jazz. And it was, the New School faculty, they came. Billy Harper was on saxophone. Kevin Jones was on percussion. Doug Hammond was on drums. It was amazing. Like one of those memories that I have is when they played the Love Supreme suite. Reggie played it at this workshop. But I could probably find something else. I wouldn't know right now. But I did go to a lot of other music concerts before. I also sang in a folkloric music choir as a kid, and all of those stage experiences were, you know, very special for me. Also, we used to see a lot of theater. My mom has some connections to the theater world, so always the feeling of the stage and of art was very attractive to me since I was 5 years old.
So what gets you up every day? What do you like the best about being a professional musician and creating music? What is it that gets you going? That's a very deep question. I really think that when music is happening and it's happening really well, and that energy is just flowing, you know, when you're beyond all the technical limitations, or when you're in this energy space where it doesn't really even matter, even if some things are like a little bit imperfect, that's for me the best feeling I've ever experienced. You know, when you have that feeling, that fire of love, let's say, burning between the musicians on stage, and then it goes, you know, to the people, to the hall, or to the club. That's just such a special when everything is flowing, you know, the state of flow.
that is just such a special feeling where you when you can't go wrong, and then it kind of liberates you. And I think by extension, it also liberates the people, and they get into it, and it kind of takes away, the daily thoughts, like Art Blakey said, right? How is it? Music washes away the dust of everyday life, but for those 2 hours or how long the show is, we're all a little bit suspended from the everyday, So that's why I do what I do, and that's why I practice, for example, because I of course, after 25 years of playing saxophone, or yeah, it's been 25, yeah. I can already play it with a lot of ease, but it takes that complete relaxation with the instrument for that energy that I described to even be possible, So yeah, I guess something like that, and hopefully, I mean, I've had a few experiences also where the music I was playing and we were playing with the groups I'm in really touched some people in the audience, and people who really were going through a lot of things, and that's also a great thing to. Maybe the most important thing to remind myself, we had one guy when we played in Slovenia with Slovenia-born, and then we didn't play for 3 years because of the pandemic, and then we played again, and he basically told me between the lines that something, like, thank God you gave me this CD before the pandemic, because I don't know how I would make it through. Like, and he really meant it. So, yeah, things like that.
So, why do you love this art form we call jazz?
It's very connected to this energy that I was just talking about, that free-flowing flow state type of energy. It's so freeing, it's so liberating, and I am very eclectic in my music tastes. Like I already mentioned a bunch of things, right? The folkloric, the classical rock, let's say, then the hip hop, then electronic music, a lot of Latin music too. But I think each one of those musics becomes so much better when you infuse it with jazz also. And it's just freedom for me. It's just freedom, and it's communication between musicians. Because in jazz, if you play something cool, then the drummer can almost say with his playing, "I like this," or "That was cool," Whereas in other musics, I mean, I've played my share of with my fair share of pop projects too, and it gets a little bit repetitive after a while for me personally. I know people like it, and that's great, and I'm also trying to incorporate elements of pop music to Playground, obviously, as it can be heard. But I think that creativity and that being in the moment and that communication and that freedom is something that's really special for jazz music.
So, if you could get into a time machine and go back in time and see one jazz show live with your own eyes, where would you go?
I think I would probably go to see one of those Miles Davis bands with Wayne Shorter and Chick Corea and Joe Zawinul, like those Bitches Brew kind of period, or maybe a little bit before that, or maybe in a silent way, which is a little bit after that. But all those groups where it was just creativity was just oozing from every note they played, and Jack DeJohnette on drums, Dave Holland. Probably I would go to see some of that. Yeah, that would have been great. Or maybe Steve Coleman and the Five Elements in the 90s when they were first forming. Also another one would be maybe the Roy Hargrove Crisol project, when he did this collaboration with Cuban musicians. I play with a lot of Cuban musicians now, so I'm really into that music. And that one was really great because it was Roy and Hargrove and me have the same birthday, by the way. My birthday was yesterday.
Oh, cool.
And yeah.
We're in the Libra world. Mine was on Monday. I'm on the 13th. So,
oh, wow. Do you know about this? There's an insane number of jazz musicians that are Libras.
Is that right? That's fascinating. I didn't know that.
Yeah, Coltrane, Pharoah Sanders, Monk, Art Blakey. I think Dizzy Gillespie. I'm not sure. He might be a Scorpio, but I think. And Antonio Hart, Michael Mossman, Roy Hargrove, and there's more. Then I saw a post by Jean Toussaint the other day, who used to play in the Blakey Messengers, the saxophone player, and he posted that at one point the Messengers had 5 Libras in the lineup.
Terry Gibbs was born on my birthday. He's 101. this
Oh,
year.
wow.
Yeah.
Wow.
So, wow, that's fascinating. I love learning stuff like that. So, Jan, everyone has a perception of you, family, friends, fans, everyone that you work with, but you run the show. What's your perception of you? Who do you think you are?
What was the thing about the show? I just didn't catch that. I'm sorry. Could you say that
No,
again?
just everyone has this idea, this perception of who they think you are.
Uh-huh.
Who, what's your perception of you? Who do you think you are?
Oh, okay. That's interesting. Yeah, it's the day after my birthday too. So always on my birthdays, I like to reflect on things. So I have a lot of thoughts about that, which aren't fully formed yet, maybe right now. But I think I'm a creative person, and I like to search for creativity, and I think I'm at my best when I am creating something. It doesn't just mean music, but like also helping people, maybe, because I also am a teaching artist with some programs, and I help some kids. But yeah, I'm trying to just to basically, I think what's specific about me is that usually, I play in this Cuban band that I mentioned, and it's 7 Cubans and me from Slovenia. Then I play in a Puerto Rican band, and it's 5 Puerto Ricans and one guy from Slovenia. And that maybe has something to do with my childhood also, because I grew up in Bosnia partly. That's a long story, but I think I'm a person who's able to connect with a lot of to connect authentically. This is like the best. I'm trying to find the best thing about myself, but I think that there's bad ones too, believe me. But the best one would be maybe that I'm able to authentically connect with people from a lot of different backgrounds and find some kind of commonality and human connection. I'm very approachable, I would say.
I love that answer. So, if anyone wants to pick up a copy of Playground, catch you live, any other good business, where do they go?
They should go to any of the streaming platforms. The album is not we don't have physical copies right now because this is such a digital era project in itself, like even the music. So you have it on all the streaming platforms, and you can buy it also on Apple Music, of course. Also, we are in the middle of a crowdfunding campaign, if I can plug this in.
Sure.
So you just go to Indiegogo and you search Playground, and it should come up, because this is the first of 3 EPs. We just released the first one. There are 2 more EPs on the way with, like I would say, like 90% of the music already written and recorded. We still have to record a few things, but there's a lot of expenses involved with mixing, with editing first, then with mixing, then mastering, then the design of the cover and the artwork, and publicity fees and all of that to get the album out there. So any kind of support would be very welcome. And basically what we're doing is like you get a lot of perks. So it's like buying the work ahead. You can also buy this one. Currently we're selling this one, this current EP. You can go to the Indiegogo page and you can buy it directly from us. Or you can get some other perks, which include, a lot of things, like the vinyls, which we will print in the future, and signed vinyls, and to private concert if you want to go that far, and so on. So yeah, Indiegogo page, then all the streaming platforms, and also please most definitely give us a follow on Instagram. Our page is Ground Play Music. Playground Music was taken already, so Ground Play Music at Ground Play Music. That's our Insta.
Right on. I will put all these links to the show notes. Juan, it's so great to meet you. It's so great to talk today. Thank you so much for taking a minute out today. I appreciate it.
Likewise, thank you so much. And I really like your icon with the trumpet player.
Oh, cool. Yeah, I'm a visual artist. That's one of my originals, man. I appreciate it. From one lever to another, man. It's good to hook up. So best of luck.
Okay, thank you. Thanks a lot. Thanks for having me.
Thanks for listening and tuning in to another Neon Jazz interview, where we give you a bit of insight into the finest players and minds in Slovenia, New York City, Kansas City, and spots all over the globe, giving fans all that jazz. And thanks to Jan for his time and story. If you want to hear more Neon Jazz interviews, you can find us on Spotify and Apple Podcasts. Subscribe to us at YouTube, and for everything Neon Jazz, go to theneonjazz.blogspot.com. Until next time, enjoy the jazz, my friends.
Neon Jazz.